I would say, if you want to allow me a little more leeway, that when she leaves this Queen of Sheba, she reminds him of everything he's lost in some ways. And so, like Johnny Lee would say, he began to look for love in all the wrong places and look for love in too many faces. He begins a quest to know everything he can experimentally. He's going to touch it. He's going to taste it. He's going to feel it. He's going to hear it. He's going to smell it. He's going to see it. And so what we have in Ecclesiastes is the last half of Solomon's life is perverted love. And he had 700 wives who were all princesses. He had 300 concubines just for pleasure. And yet, again, now his love's not just tainted, it's perverted. But was it just perverted relationally with ladies? No, because Deuteronomy 17:17 says, God talking to the nation of Israel, before they ever have a king, the king must not take many wives or his heart will be led astray. Why? He'll follow after their gods. These ladies' gods, their pursuits. And so what does 1 Kings 11 tell us? And his wives turned his heart away from God. And so when he gets to the end of his life, he pens Ecclesiastes. And as you guys know, if you were here for our study, here's the key phrase. Hevel. Hevel. That's the Hebrew for vanity. Vanity. All is vanity. Emptiness. Emptiness. All is emptiness. Smoke. Smoke. Like smoke through the fingers. All is smoke if you give your heart to pursuing everything under the sun. That is, everything this world has to offer without God. And Solomon did it better than any of us could ever do it. And he came up with this take. Vanity. Vanity. All is vanity. Now, my pastor in California, Ray Bentley, pastor of Maranatha Chapel, he's authored many books. And the first one that I ever read of his is a book on the life of Solomon called God's Pursuing Love. And Ray Bentley wrote this, so I have this quote for you here on the screen in the book God's Pursuing Love. He wrote, life's disappointments are always the result of following our own understanding. We decide that we're going to lean on our own understanding. Even if we know God's will, I'm going to lean on my will. Yeah, I know God said don't have many wives, but every king makes a political alliance. And when you start down that slope, it's so easy to lean on our own understanding until we get to the point where our own understanding lets us down. But being the fallen creatures we are, when our own understanding lets us down, rather than calling out to Him for a peace that passes understanding when I don't have understanding, have you ever noticed that I tend to blame God? I leaned on my own understanding. It failed me. Now I blame God for getting me in this pickle. And Solomon, he's bitter. He's given everything he has to his own understanding. It's all vanity. Now, Solomon falls into this trap. And it is that over time, and if you're a note taker, I wish you would circle that if you write that down. Over time, Solomon left his first love, and in leaving his first love, he lost his purpose. When people say in their Christian life, I don't know, I just fell into sin. Liar, liar, pants on fire. I mean, you may not know that that's not how it happened, but that's not how it happened. We never just fall. We always drift away. We make a decision here. We unmoor ourselves from the dock. Then we don't put out our sails. We give away a little piece of our heart. Then another. We lean on our own understanding. We get a little jaded. We don't repent. We lean on our own understanding a little more. We give a little more of our heart away. We sin. We get harder. And over time, Solomon left his first love. And in doing so, he lost his purpose. What was Solomon's purpose? He was handpicked by God to not just succeed David, not just build a temple, not just take the kingdom to its greatest place on history, but to leave a legacy, to leave something that would follow after him spiritually. And the spiritual would be the power for the nation. And yet in Solomon's life, he left. By the way, you don't lose your first love. Ephesians, Paul wrote to them. Later, Jesus wrote to the same church in Revelation in Ephesus. Nevertheless, Revelation 2, 4, and 5, I have this against you, that you have lost. No, that you've left your first love. You see, a lot of times I'll come home and I'll put everything away. Next day I'll get up and get ready to go take the boys to school. And then this happens more times than not. I come out, Lucinda, I lost my keys. She said, you didn't lose your keys. You left them. They're right where you left them. The same way you did yesterday and the day before. Remember how you said to all of us, make sure that all my stuff goes in the little green bowl on top of the fireplace in the mudroom so that I won't lose anything. Well, you came home and you didn't take the stuff out of your pockets, and when you got ready to go to bed, you pulled it all out and put it on your dresser instead of the green bowl, and you didn't lose it, you left it. I hate that. I can't even blame my preteen boys, which are the greatest source to blame anything on in the whole house. Everything's their fault. Except when I leave my keys, didn't lose them. Likewise, we don't lose first love, we leave it. And yet what does Jesus say? He says, if you've left your first love, remember therefore where you've fallen. Where's my keys? Exactly where they are. How do I find them? My wife remembers exactly where they are. Go back to where you left them. Remember therefore from where you have fallen. Repent and do the first works, or else I will come to you quickly and I will remove your lampstand from its place unless you repent. And when we lose our first love, nope, we leave it. When we leave our first love, what happens is that we lose our purpose. Love is left, purpose is then lost. And Billy Sunday, the famous evangelist, he said this from the 1800s. More men fail, or you should say more people fail from lack of purpose than lack of talent. And here's the deal, we're up against it as it pertains to this purpose thing, because for 200 years the West has been told there is no purpose other than what you make up in your own mind. I mean, Darwin rose up and his whole deal was to take God out of the equation. He made up the craziest thing you could ever make up, evolution, and a whole globe bought into it. I mean, the craziest, no scientific having bunch of rubbish ever, and everybody bought into it, and its whole purpose, demonically inspired, was if there's no creator, then I'm not accountable, and if there's no creator, then the only purpose there is, if there's no before and there's no after, it's just what I do right now. My purpose is me. On top of that, at the same time, the very same time, here's how Satan works, in Germany, in the West, there came this form of criticism of the Bible that have never existed before in the history of the Bible, and it's called higher criticism, where a bunch of Germans got together and decided to start looking at the Bible and say, well, it says this, but does it really mean this? I wonder what's between the lines. And they construed and then begin to instruct this thing called higher criticism, where essentially over 200 years they taught even the Christian church by and large that you can't really take the Bible at its word. You can't really do it. You never know what the intent is. And so we live in a day and age where culturally there is little living with a purpose the way God intended. Now you think back to the Middle Ages. Can you think back there? Middle Ages, Dark Ages you might call them. We give them a hard time. You know what? Most people that lived in the Middle Ages did not possess a Bible. It's one of the reasons it's called the Dark Ages. All the Bible that there was to be had, you had to get through the church, and the church then read it to you from a dead language. So it was a dark time. But that said, Every peasant in Europe in the Middle Ages had this understanding of purpose, teleology. I was born with a purpose from God. And so they would believe that even the little daily duties in life were God ordained, they were living with a purpose, so they lived very particularly. But we drift along, and very few, even Christians, can tell you what their purpose is in this life. And so we fail for lack of purpose, because if we've ever had a first love, we left it.